Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Jed Goggin. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Lance Sergeant William Edward Ludlow Hughes, whose story will be told shortly. We also welcome Mr. Robert Connors, representing Forestville RSL sub-branch. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors and students on behalf of the Hills Christian Community School, Verdun Campus, South Australia. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the forest, wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Lance Sergeant William Edward Ludlow Hughes. William Hughes was born in Brisbane on the 23rd of October 1895, the eldest of 4 sons born to Edward and Emma Hughes. William attended the local state school before moving to Chippy outside of Charleville in central Queensland, where he took up work as a station hand. William enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Enoggera on the 1st of January 1915. He was allotted to the newly formed 11th Light Horse Regiment and began initial training. After 6 months of training, Private William Hughes departed Brisbane in the troopship Medic on the 2nd of June 1915. As part of the first contingent of the 11th Light Horse to leave Australia, William landed with his squadron at Aden in modern-day Yemen on the 12th of July, reinforcing the British garrison against a predicted enemy attack. When no attack came, the group re-embarked on the 18th of July, arriving in Egypt 5 days later. The 11th Light Horse Regiment left Egypt for Gallipoli in August without their horses. Its squadrons were split up to reinforce the 3 Light Horse regiments already ashore. As a member of A Squadron, William was briefly transferred to the 2nd Light Horse Regiment, which was withdrawn from the front line in September, spending its time on Gallipoli in reserve positions. William was briefly hospitalised with an unspecified illness from late November to early December 1915, rejoining his unit just in time to evacuate from Gallipoli and return to Egypt. William rejoined the 11th Light Horse Regiment on the 21st of February 1916, and the men were reunited with their horses. In late April, William was promoted to Lance Corporal. From July, the 11th Light Horse joined the forces defending the Suez Canal against Ottoman forces, and over the following months, conducted patrols and forays into the Sinai Desert. In April 1917, the regiment moved from Egypt into Palestine, joining the main Allied advance. Its first major battle took place in mid-April during the ill-fated Second Battle of Gaza, when Allied troops failed to capture the Ottoman-held city. During this period of advance through Palestine, William was appointed temporary corporal. Following a brief stint in a rest camp at Port Said, William's rank of corporal was made substantive in late September 1917. William left the 11th Light Horse in mid-October 1917 for a stint with the 4th Light Horse Regiment and the Imperial School of Instruction. By this stage, he had served with the Light Horse for more than 2 years, and his experience was widely recognised and respected. He returned to the 11th Light Horse in January 1918 during a period of rest following the successful capture of Gaza and the collapse of the Ottoman resistance in southern Palestine. After a few months of rest in early 1918, the 11th Light Horse moved into the Jordan Valley to participate in the Ease Salt Raid in late April and early May. Over the next few months, the regiment defended key crossing points over the Jordan River and helped to push back heavy Ottoman and German attacks in July. In August, the regiment was issued with swords and trained in traditional cavalry tactics as preparation for the next offensive against the Ottomans. William was promoted to Lance Sergeant effective from the 10th of September 1918. The offensive against the Ottomans was launched along the Palestine coast on the 19th of September 1918. Less than a week later, the 11th Light Horse fought in its last major operation of the war at Samak, at the southern end of the Sea of Galilee. Samak was positioned on the Damascus railway line, with German machine guns supporting the small Ottoman garrison. Just before dawn on the 25th of September 1918, Australian troops approached the south of Samak with orders to capture the town. While some members of the regiment dismounted to attack, William's squadron was ordered to make the attack mounted. A and B squadrons were supposed to charge the line with swords drawn. However, the advancing Australians encountered unexpectedly heavy fire, forcing a change in plans. During the dawn advance, William was hit by a German machine gun bullet, which penetrated his skull. Due to the heavy enemy fire, no members of his squadron or the nearby 4th Light Horse Field Ambulance were able to come to his aid until the position had been captured, around 2 hours later. By the time help arrived, the severity of William's wound was apparent. A witness reported that he was so badly wounded he could not be shifted. Lance Sergeant William Edward Ludlow Hughes died of his wounds between 1 and 2 p.m. on the 25th of September 1918. He was 23 years old. Initially buried in a makeshift cemetery on the banks of the Sea of Galilee, after the war, his remains were exhumed and buried in Haifa War Cemetery in Israel. His Imperial War Graves headstone bears the inscription selected by his grieving family back home: "Lost to sight, but to memory dear." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Sergeant William Edward Ludlow Hughes, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.